I could feel the heat before I even looked at him. His fingers brushed mine as he passed the basket of laundry, and something in me tightened, a secret thrill I wasn't supposed to feel. My pulse raced in a way it hadn't in years. Not since I'd been seen, really seen by anyone at all. "Careful with that," he said softly, his voice low, calm, like he knew exactly the storm he was stirring inside me. I swallowed, hoping he didn't notice the way my hand lingered on the fabric, or the way my stomach had flipped. "I'm Emily Carter. I'm 38, married for 16 years to Jason, and mother to Alex, now in college. By all accounts, my life is normal, safe, predictable, but safe and predictable had turned into invisible over the years. Not Emily, really seen. Noah, that's his name, Alex's best friend since high school. He'd spent weekends at our house, joked in the y'all kitchen while Alex rolled his eyes at our rules, helped move furniture one lazy summer afternoon, laughed at bad movies I secretly loved. He was always polite, shy, but there was a spark there even then. A kind of attention I hadn't realized I craved. And now he was back. It started small. A glance that lingered too long when I handed him a mug of coffee. His hand brushing mine when we reached for the same gardening gloves. Texts, simple, casual at first. "Hey, how's your day going?" Nothing inappropriate, nothing more than polite conversation, but the way he listened when I answered, really listened, it made my voice softer, warmer, like someone had turned the volume on me again. Jason never noticed. He was too busy with work or his routines or Alex's studies. I existed in the corners of his life, a shadow. Our house was perfect. Too perfect. The floors polished, the counters wiped, the fake flowers in a vase he didn't like because they lasted longer than real ones. And me? I existed quietly among it all, an accessory to our good life. Noah didn't treat me like an accessory. One rainy evening, Jason had gone on a work trip to New York. The house was quiet, except for the tap of rain against the windows and the hum of the refrigerator. I was folding laundry when my phone buzzed. Message from Noah. "I can come by, check the gutters if you want." I hesitated. Part of me knew it was an excuse, a pretext. But another part, a part I hadn't acknowledged in years, thrilled at the thought. He arrived drenched, his shirt clinging to his chest, hair plastered to his forehead. There was something about the sight of him in that moment that made my knees weak. Something innocent yet undeniably electric. "You're soaked," I said, fumbling for a towel, my hand brushing against his. "So are you," he replied, though I wasn't. His eyes met mine, searching, hesitant. And in that instant, the line between friendship and something else vanished. The first kiss was tentative, almost apologetic. His lips pressed against my neck lightly, a whisper of warmth. I shivered, gripping his shirt as if it anchored me to reality. "We shouldn't," he murmured. But I shook my head. "I know what I'm doing," I lied. Every touch felt like a confession. Every small movement. His hand on my waist, my fingers in his. Hair was a dangerous admission of desire we weren't supposed to feel. I was married. He was my son's friend. We were crossing lines I'd sworn I would never cross. And yet, I wanted him. Days passed, and the tension built. Every text, every lingering glance, every accidental brush of hands was a storm simmering beneath polite conversation. I found myself thinking about him in ways I hadn't thought of anyone in years. I caught myself smoothing my hair before seeing him, checking my reflection in the mirror, feeling alive again, feeling wanted. Jason remained oblivious. He noticed nothing unusual in our home, though I knew the silence had grown heavier, thicker in the spaces where Noah had been. And Noah, he was careful too, polite, never obvious when Jason was around. But the undercurrent between us was undeniable. One evening, Alex was at a study session and Jason had flown out for a conference. Noah texted me, "I'll be there in 20. Just a minute to check on things." The minute stretched into an hour. The tension in the house was palpable. I could feel it buzzing in my veins like electricity. When the forbidden moment came again, it was in the garage. I had given him a key, under the flower pot, and the house was silent. Rain drummed against the roof, muffled and constant. He was there, standing close, watching me with that intensity that made my chest tighten. "Is this wrong?" He whispered. "I don't care," I said, though part of me did. The rest of me wanted this, needed this, like air. We didn't speak much after that. Words felt unnecessary. His hands found mine, and we let the rest follow naturally, like a current we couldn't resist. There was guilt, yes. But there was also life, raw and blazing inside me. I hadn't realized how long I'd been asleep, how unnoticed I'd been. Noah woke something in me I'd forgotten existed. Desire, attention, danger, thrill. Evenings were hardest. Jason was home soon or in meetings or traveling. We texted in codes, small jokes, little images that meant nothing to anyone else but everything to us. I would catch his eye from across the kitchen, across the living room, feeling my heart hammer. Every smile, every tilt of his head, every word he whispered was a spark threatening to ignite a fire I couldn't control. I tried to maintain normalcy. Laundry, dishes, emails, calls. Jason never suspected. I whispered his name in the garage when we were alone, and it felt like a prayer, a confession, a sin. The affair grew like a secret garden in shadow. It was exhilarating and terrifying. I felt guilty in waves, but each time I saw him, each time he touched me, each time he lingered over my words, the guilt turned into adrenaline. I was alive in ways I hadn't been in decades. Our encounters became a dangerous rhythm. Lunches, errands, accidental touches, secret glances. Every time I almost let myself confess to Jason, my mouth went dry. Every time Noah texted, I felt a thrill so strong it was painful. One night, after a long day, he came over unannounced. I had tried to act normal, but as soon as he walked in, the air shifted. The rain had stopped, leaving the world outside shiny and wet, reflective. His hands on my waist, his lips grazing my cheek, my fingers threading through his hair. I forgot everything else. I didn't want to stop. I didn't want him to stop. And for the first time in years, I didn't care who knew or what might happen next. Morning came, and the reality of our lives settled back around me like dust on furniture. Jason never suspected. Alex never suspected. But I knew. Noah knew. And that knowledge changed everything. I became hyper-aware of him, of his presence, even in absence. His texts became lifelines. Small questions, jokes, reminders that we existed outside the confines of this carefully curated home. I smiled when I read them, my pulse quickening, and sometimes cursed myself for feeling alive and guilty at the same time. The days stretched on. We were careful, subtle, but the tension never left. Every encounter, every glance, every touch was layered with risk. Every day I realized I could not turn back. I had crossed a line and there was no erasing it. Yet, paradoxically, it was in this secrecy that I found myself again. Emily, the woman who had faded into the background, who had been ignored, who had become invisible, was back. Seen, desired. Dangerous in the way she hadn't been in years, and I wanted more. The climax wasn't loud. It was quiet, electric. One evening, he kissed me in the kitchen, our hands finding each other naturally, every look loaded with unspoken promises. I whispered almost to myself, "I'm not sorry." He didn't flinch. His hand stayed in mine. "You're honest," he said. And in that honesty, in that moment, everything I had been missing, attention, desire, recognition, life, flooded back into me. We parted that night, hearts racing, knowing we'd both crossed lines that could never be uncrossed. And as I stood by the window watching him drive away, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating. Nothing would ever be the same. I was no longer just a wife, a mother, a shadow, in a perfect house. I was Emily again. I was alive. I had been seen. and I wanted him, even knowing it was forbidden. The house was quiet. The fridge hummed. The drip of the faucet echoed in my ears. And I smiled, whispered to myself, I'm not sorry. Some people call it betrayal. Some call it sin. But in that quiet, after the storm of my own feelings, I knew one thing. I had remembered who I was. And nothing, not guilt, not consequence, not anyone else's judgment could take that away.